You're going to get a lot of Richard Sherman tonight. Obviously, he played for both teams. The moment he's most known for was the interception against the Niners in the playoffs, the Michael Crabtree rant to Aaron Andrews afterwards. So he works for Amazon. Game is on Amazon. And he offered up this gem earlier.
I don't want to be controversial, but almost the worst thing that could happen for the 49ers right now is Brock Purdy takes them to a Super Bowl and win it. You're going to have the biggest conflict for 49ers fans in the history. They're barely going to be able to enjoy the Super Bowl championship. All you will hear about is them arguing about Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo. And what do, Mitchell? It's not a problem I want, but it's the problem Kyle Shanahan will have.
No, he won't. So let me get this straight. In this scenario that Richard Sherman just proposed to us, the Niners win the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, and it's the worst thing that could happen to the Niners? Worse than, I don't know, Brock Purdy getting hurt tonight and them going to another quarterback after passing on Baker Mayfield? Worse than Brock Purdy playing poorly and they get to the playoffs and he's not good enough. That's actually a way worse scenario because no one knows if Trey Lance is any good and Jimmy Garoppolo's not coming back. So, I mean, there's so many scenarios which are way worse than the Niners. Matter of fact, the best possible scenario, it's actually, he's 180 degrees facing the wrong direction. The best scenario is they win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy and then they have no problem allowing Jimmy Garoppolo to exit stage left. And then you get another veteran backup quarterback. You see if Trey Lance comes back and Brock Purdy becomes your guy, and maybe you can leverage the upside of a Trey Lance to getting something back in return. That's actually the best possible scenario. The problem is that you have a football player who's trying to be a football fan, and football players don't really understand, because they've never really been fans themselves, what it's like to be a fan. Because fans, I actually think, are a lot more educated than when we were kids, but they're also not idiots. And they're like, we don't have any tie to Trey Lance. The organization maybe has we spent a lot on Trey Lance, but even the organization be like, we won a Super Bowl. I don't see how that's the worst possible scenario. Winning a Super Bowl is in no one would say, like, you won a Super Bowl, it's the worst thing that could happen to us. It can make for an uncomfortable conversation or two. But at the end of the day, you have we won a Super Bowl, right? But one of the reasons that the Seahawks have had a better than expected year is that their division isn't nearly as good as expected. Is that fair? Right? I mean, let's just kind of call it like it is. I mean, part of it was Geno Smith was playing at a ridiculous level. And we can also point out that they, did a great job in the draft taking Kenneth Walker, who is back tonight, right? Kenneth Walker's been hurt. One of the reasons they haven't been as good is he's been hurt. But if you look at their wins, right? Denver, who stinks. Detroit, who has won games, but that's 48-45, absolute shootout. And it's not like Detroit, it was at that time a playoff team and may not be. They beat Arizona, who stinks. The Rams, who stink. The Giants, whatever. Arizona, again, stinks. And the Rams. That's their wins. All they've done is beat the bad teams on their schedule. And they've been better at it than most. But they beat the bad teams in their schedule. So what's left? San Francisco, Kansas City, L. Jets, probably an L. And then Rams, in a game that no one's going to care about, right? The Rams can't tank because they're not really tanking for anything other than late round draft picks moving up. And the Seahawks, well, thank you, Denver, for sucking so bad because we have your pick as well, right? But we mentioned the Arizona Cardinals. Yesterday it was announced that Steve Keim, their general manager, is going to take time away because of some medical issues. First of all, let's hope he gets well, right? Like, these are really, really hard jobs. I am personally friends with 3 GMs and several coaches, And all of them say like Sean Payton. Why would Sean Payton walk away from New Orleans? Like, one, he knew they were going to be bad. And two, does anybody have any idea how many hours those guys actually put in? It is a job, a real hard job. So we hope Steve Keim gets better. But I want you to think about this. You want to talk about bad year? I give you the Arizona Cardinals, who come off a year where DeAndre Hopkins was hurt in the playoffs. They played poorly, but starting from being a putrid team, Cliff Kingsbury over a 3-year build with Kyler Murray, they did get to the playoffs last year. Right? Didn't play well, got beat by the Super Bowl champions on the road, and they didn't have DeAndre Hopkins. Okay. So early in February, Kyler Murray wipes all of his Cardinal stuff from his Instagram, which made all of us go like, ooh, whoa, Facebook changing your status. Early March, the Cardinals agreed to give an extension not to Kyler Murray, but to Steve Keim and to Cliff Kingsbury. And you're like, wait, what? The idea of giving Cliff Kingsbury an extension because he was coming into his last season, like, I've never truly understood. Why does he have to have additional years in his contract? This is not college football where guys sign with you for 4 or 5 years. Like, this is the NFL. Those guys are here and maybe gone, and you may be here. But I do understand, all right, you extend him a little bit. That way, if he benches you, if he wants to cut you, you can't say, well, like, you're going to get fired anyway. It's the Cardinals saying, we're backing him. They also back Steve Keim, despite the fact there have been numerous mistakes on both sides. But okay, that's what they did. Then DeAndre Hopkins in May gets suspended for PED use, out first 8 games. Ouch. Or 6 games, excuse me. So if you saw how they looked without DeAndre Hopkins last year, you'd know that wasn't a great prerequisite. They then traded for Hollywood Brown. They gave up a first-round pick for Hollywood Brown, which, has Hollywood Brown done much this year? The answer is no. Why they trade for Hollywood Brown? 2 reasons. 1, play with Kyler in college, and Kyler liked him. And 2, they needed somebody because DeAndre Hopkins was suspended for PEDs. Oh, yeah, in late July, Kyler Murray signed a 5-year extension, $160 million guaranteed. And there was a clause in there, which Kyler and his side had agreed to, which became public, that said he had to study at home some, couldn't play Call of Duty as much. And, of course, then it got public, and the independent hours of study, they actually took off the contract after it was already signed. Late July, Kyler Murray is shown with his helmet off, walking out the field, yelling at Cliff Kingsbury. Then in late November, if you remember, their offensive line coach, Sean Kugler, was fired for allegedly groping a woman in Mexico City. Their offense stinks. The defense isn't much better. This past Monday, Kyler Murray tore his ACL. Now Steve Keim's out for an indefinite amount of time because of health issues. And while you can fire Cliff Kingsbury, he was hired specifically to work with Kyler, and he was given a contract extension. And while you can fire Steve Keim, the only reason Steve Keim got an extension was Kyler Murray and the DeAndre Hopkins trade. And you can't get rid of Kyler Murray, and you have to build a team around Kyler Murray, knowing he's not going to be as mobile next year coming off a knee, and he's not going to be ready probably week 1 of the season. The old expression is, outside of that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the show? The new expression is worst period, season, period, ever, period. You pick. And it's all related to why are the Seahawks better than we thought? You know what? The Seahawks are a little bit better than we thought. The division is crummy. The Rams are the worst defending Super Bowl champions in the history of the sport. And the Cardinals, who made the playoffs last year, have had a year from hell. These things all do work hand in hand. Yeah, Richard Sherman, it's the worst thing that can happen is the Niners win the Super Bowl. The worst thing that can happen is I win the lottery. Because then I got all this Texas the lottery. You get $1 billion. Yeah, but I got to pay in half a billion in taxes. Yeah, but then you get the other $500 million you get to keep. Yeah, but taxes. These are not problems.
Isn't that what, Dan Beyer is our resident game show viewer expert, but like when people win stuff on Price is Right, it's like, hey, you just want a Chevy Suburban. And then there's always that person that's like, yeah, but you're going to pay $7,000 in taxes.
Actually, Suburban, you get that GSRV because the thing is weighted so much, you get a write-off for it. But anyway, yes, I can hear Beyer laughing because he knows exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, well, yeah. And what about like if you win a car that you don't really want? Then you've got that like, oh, great, I've won this piece of crap.
Geo Metro?
Yes. I'd say like Wheel of Fortune does it well. They put the high-end luxury vehicles, in the final puzzle. But some of the other ones, not so much. Not so much. And some lady on Let's Make a Deal, which, by the way, is an awful show. It's bad. But Before Price is Right today, a lady traded in because she wanted to go for the big deal.
Yeah.
She had a trip to like the Bahamas. It was like $8,000. Like you're not going to do much better. She ended up with a barbecue set that was worth $2,000. Like, what a joke. Well, I guess she only has to pay, the small amount of taxes now on that barbecue set instead of that Bahamas trip.
Is it bad because of Wayne Brady as the host, or is it bad because of that?
It's all bad. Like,
okay.
The contestants, the jokes aren't funny.
Yeah, Wayne Brady, one of the least funny humans to be seen as a funny human for a long time. I would say Wayne Brady and, Dane Cook, I feel bad that wasn't his brother who ran off with all his money or something like that, or was it just his agent?
Something tragic happened.
It was something, I don't know, it's tragic, but he basically broke. I think it was his brother or something had his account and took all his money, whatever. But Dane Cook was not funny and was like filling up stadiums. Wayne Brady is that to TV.
If there was an NFC West of game shows, Let's Make a Deal would be the Cardinals.
Ooh,
that's what
okay.
it would be. Yes.
Okay, wait, who else is in that division?
Well,
I would say that Price is Right is in that division as well, kind of the Rams-ish. I struggle with the new. I struggle with a lot of the new parts of Price is Right.
It's the gold standard to me.
But is it the same as it used to be?
No, but
right. I like the Bob Barker, like Bob's Beauties, like it was completely misogynist and sexist.
Oh,
and
God.
whatever. And you know what?
It's uncomfortable when you watch old episodes. And then I didn't realize
uncomfortable.
how mad Bob Barker got at contestants that didn't know how to play. He would be
you wanted to go like, did you even watch the show ever? DM, what are you doing here? I want the outtakes where he just goes, are you the dumbest contestant we've ever had?
Seriously, I was not in tune to how much he could not stand some of these people. Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so who are the Rams? The Rams have to be somebody who's been seen as a great show, but in the run this year is a shell game. It's a house of cards. It's not good.
Yeah, gosh. Maybe there's like
I got it. Wait, hold on. Here's what it is. The Rams were a game show built around a host, and now you have the same cast. You have the same show, only you changed out the host, right? If the Rams have Aaron Donald and Matt Stafford and what's his name, Cooper Kupp, right? And all that, like they're fine. They're the Rams. They're still good, right? But now you change out people, and you got all these other people like, huh?
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Like when Regis, R.I.P. Regis, but then you put everybody else in, and it's just not the same.
I'm like the only guy who hasn't hosted Millionaire.
No,
that's it. That just proves I suck. I'm like the only guy. Anyway, that's a good discussion.